Absolutely. And is this something that you can do, because I think you mentioned at some point, is this what is called a content-free method? As in, do you as the, I don't know, facilitator, coach, therapist, whatever people want to call themselves, do they need to know the issue that the client is coming with, or they can just, work blind, so to speak?
Another beautiful question, Eugene. The therapist, you don't ever have to know anything if the client doesn't want to, uh, as long as you're allowing the client and the client is doing productive work. Of course, that's a concern, but almost always that's been the case. Ernie. In one of the books, Ernie, pardon my familiarity, Ernest
Of
Rossi,
course, yeah. Yeah.
he was like my father. But Ernie did something with a man whose later life, his children in their later life were bringing up accusations of childhood sexual abuse,
Hmm. Hmm.
that he had abused them sexually. He didn't want to talk about it at all. He didn't even want to say the words. So Ernie
Hmm.
said, okay, let's just put whatever it is you're thinking about here in this hand. And he was able to get enormous benefit for this gentleman, and they never mentioned the process once. But here's
Hmm.
the real key of it. Mirroring hands is perfect for when the client doesn't know and
Hmm.
you don't know. They just say, I just don't feel good. Something's not right in my life.
So this is the
And
kind of
we'll
like a
just,
double blind, almost. It's
absolutely.
the client doesn't know, the therapist doesn't know, but you gotta go.
But only up here, only
Yeah.
in words, only in the
Hmm.
left hemispheric detail part of the brain. The right
Yeah.
hemisphere, so you put up their hands and you say, which hand wishes to receive this thing that we don't even know what it is? And it
Hmm.
goes like
Hmm.
that. And you go, we're in. This person does know. They just don't know they know,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
their system knows. When I was working with my wife, in the early stage before we got married, she said, "There's something that bothers me about from my
Hmm.
marriage, and I'm finding it a barrier with us." And she said, "Can you do the hands thing?" And I thought, okay. This is after I'd been working with Ernie for 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, people say, "Hey, I want to do a weekend workshop and then go and practice this thing." Uh, there's a diligence that comes. So you do a weekend workshop, then you practice and you get better. You do another one and you practice and you get better, and you do another one, you practice and you get better.
Hmm.
Anyway, she put her hands up. She was very receptive, and I said, uh, we use what we call the review. I said, do you want to look back on? I wonder if you want
Hmm.
to look back. And she said, yes. And I said, well, let's review the situation. Anyway, eyes closed, her head fell a bit, a medium trance, I
Hmm.
would suggest. And after about 5 minutes, her hand ratcheted down a little bit,
Hmm.
stayed there. Her face was moving, her eyes were going, ratcheted down. Another 5 minutes, ratcheted down. Tears
Hmm.
began to flow, ratcheted down. This went on for 40 minutes. Finally, it hit her lap. And I said, and what about, okay, maybe you've reviewed enough. And let's review what you need to know, what will strengthen you, what is it that is not whatever it is that just went to your lap. And she
Hmm.
just went
Hmm.
as quickly as that. She opened her eyes. I didn't even give her, didn't use the protocol to bring her back to attention. And she said,
Hmm.
I said, do you want to share with me anything about what's happened? She said, no. We went to sleep. It was in the evening. We went to sleep. She woke up in the morning and she said, Richard, it's gone. I don't even know what it is. I don't know what it was. It was something. It is gone. And every 5 years or so, she would say to me, you know that thing? It's never come back. And we've now been
Wow.
married 20 years. So we've had these
Amazing.
confirmations. Amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, and that is great because I really liked what you just said. Even the client doesn't need to know. But this raises another question, and I feel so compelled to ask it. I feel this compelled, not this compelled. so so um, so there are people, whether they are labeled or not hypochondriacs, but there are these types of people who come and say, I know I have a problem, I don't know which one, but I know I have a problem, even if they don't. And so, wouldn't this be kind of like giving them license to be troubled? Because, like, I'm coming to you without having knowing, if I have a problem or not, but I know, or I think I do, and you will find that problem by using this method.
Another beautiful question, because we are looking for the opposite, of course, but we are looking for the opposites. So here's the hypochondriac coming and say, which hand? So we're not sure which problem. You've got all these problems. So we respect. I listen, I respect, I respond. You've got all these problems. We've had a successful induction. They've chosen a hand and they know which is received. I wonder what that hand wants to receive. Just let it receive. And then you look for the receiving. Mm-hmm. So I might ask, and what is it? And if something's happening, are you receiving? Does it feel? What are you? Are there some word or two you want to share? Then they just start to describe what it is. And what's interesting is they're no longer working with just this.
Yeah.
This is the thing that's got the hypochondria.
Yeah.
This is trying to get this to pay attention, but this is paying attention with this unfortunate dysfunctional process. So they will do that process. So whatever it is, even if they say, oh, it's everything, it's 100 things. Okay, let's put it away. Where would you like to go? And then depending on the client, they might throw it away, they might keep it, they might put it on their lap. And I'll say, okay, so now what's not the problem? So this, with someone who comes in with a hypochondriac type, with a problem, what's not the problem? With all these problems, how do you manage? What is it that allows you to cope and deal with all those problems? Let's review that. And that's the one that, for example, in using this one, that's where I would focus on. And then suddenly they've got their strengths in front of them, but they've taken their problems already. Because usually they say, oh, no, look, I've got these problems, I've got these problems, I've got these problems.
Yeah.
And you've taken them away. And now they're saying, actually, and there's 100,000 different scenarios that could come out there. So what is it? So probably what's going to come out here is the real problem. Is what really generates this, and how they manage with that. I had a lovely person who came, and she was really aggressive, and she went into the hands, was spontaneous the way she worked, and we got the hands, and I said, "What's this hand receiving?" And long story short, basically, she said, "This is the personality I show everybody." And I went, and I wonder what's over here, and she said, "That's who I really am." And then she was still in trance, and her hands came together like this. And I said, is that this nasty, aggressive person? Protecting? Again, a question, protecting. And we found out that she was traumatized, abused a child. She developed this almost identity disorder. And she just at one stage went like that. And then this hand fell away. I said, time for that personality to have a rest. I would have to be a genius to be able to understand that this girl who was cranky and wanted to get rid of her anger and aggression was actually abused as a child. I'd have to be
not
a
a genius. You'd have to be a seer. You'd have to be a magician.
More than that, a magician. And yet we did it in one session. Amazing.
Yeah. Awesome. So one other question is, are there any counterindications on using the mirroring hands protocol?
When the client is no longer comfortable, you stop. And the end, the exiting protocol is very important, because we have a natural cycle of energy to healing. We go energetic activity to healing. It's about every 90 to 120 minutes. It's called at sleep time. It's called the basic rest activity cycle. So we encourage people to engage and realize they can engage in that even when they finish, they will keep doing positive improvements. But if someone gets distressed, Then we will say, we can continue this at another time. And your system and your body will continue this at another time. But for now, we don't wish to continue it. That's one thing. Another one is that we use the hands to receive. They begin to get distressed. You can see it becoming internal. I say, yes, that anxiousness. Put it out. Which hand will receive that distress, that anxiousness, whatever it is? So that's always the case. And I did have one client, and it was in a class, and it was a father and son. And the son was finding it very difficult to come out of the experience. And I just repeated the opportunity for him to allow this process to continue after. And I said, so now there's a little more you wish to do now. Let's do that a little more. And now I wonder if that part inside of you is ready to allow this work to continue at appropriate times during the day. We had to go through 5 or 6 of those, just like my one before, didn't get into the process until they'd been through a few things. So that sensitivity and observe and trust that the client knows what they're doing is so the contraindication is usually in hypnosis because the client is resisting or reacting to what the therapist is instructing them to do. But if they're instructing themselves, then it is it's almost a fail-safe process, because you could just say, well, that's okay. Well, let's not do that anymore. Let's take that energy, put it out, and just quietly come back into the space.
Gotcha. And now, when you're doing a session with someone, how long does it usually take? Is there like an average between this and this much time, or how is that going?
It's interesting question. A process tends to take, and Erickson used to do this. It was actually Erickson who started, and Ernie watched his sessions, and he said, wow, you sort of go 80, 75, 80, maybe 85 minutes, nearly an hour and a half. Why do you do that? And Erickson would say, because it takes that long to get something done, in my bad Erickson impression. But it does vary. I tend to find that and this is this natural cycle, which we talk about in the workshop and in the video programs that I do on the Science of Psychotherapy website. There is this natural cycle. Now, sometimes you have to finish because you've only got a limited amount of time. You perhaps have to finish in that 60 minutes. Yeah. So I usually give them ongoing work. I'll say, now, because we all know that at 55 minutes, we bring them out, and as they're walking down the corridor, there's something going, oh, no, now I know. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. So they're going down. I have decided to do the longer sessions. Catherine Rossi, Ernie's wife, she books a double session for people, and so and they pay accordingly and work accordingly. But the secret of it is that it is a long process. Sometimes the beginning session, the beginning part, and we talk about 4 stages of the cycle, might be talk. Then you move into the actual mirroring hands. The mirroring hands might be a shorter part of the session, but it might also be a longer part of the session. A lot of my demonstrations, we managed to get through the whole process in 10 or 15 minutes. My wife with the ratchet hand, it was about an hour. So, but we move into the hypnotherapeutic, the mirroring hands process when it is appropriate, and we move out of it when it is appropriate. If we have to shortcut it, then we try and make sure that it has a continuation. And there's a number of ways in which we allow and invite the client to do it. Because remembering, it doesn't need you. Yeah. It utilizes, the client is utilizing you, and you're very valuable and very helpful. But the client can go off. As we often say, in between your sessions a week apart, there are 84 opportunities for the client to go through this healing pause and have this pausing moment where they can move back into trance and the hands will work again.